Hey guys, what's up, family? So we are back with another video, and you can tell by the title that we are talking about our home purchase, our first time home purchase. And we learned some valuable information, so we wanted to relay that information to you guys. But let's pause. If you are new here, welcome. We are the Wanyes of Internationally Blended. And so far, we've been talking about family and marriage. The biggest thing on the horizon after the house is the baby. We are currently expecting, so we are going to share more of that with you guys.
In another video.
Right. And so we just talk about family and marriage. So if those topics are interests to you, then we encourage you to subscribe, stick around, hang out with us.
Hit subscribe.
And hit that like button. They're both free. So.
And drop a comment. You know, we'd like to know what you think about our conversation so far, and feedback would help us a lot.
And what you would like to see. Is there anything you would like to know about us that we are willing to share? Of course.
Right.
Little disclaimer before we start. We do have littles. Well, we have a little and then a medium children. So you'll hear him in the background because right now his toys are Avengers and they're fighting. So if you hear that, you know what it is. All right. You ready?
Oh, yeah, sure.
First of all, congratulations on being a first-time homeowner.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Congratulations.
Great experience, and congratulations to you, too. Oh, congratulations to us. And great experience.
I can't even say that. We bought our home during the pandemic.
Great time.
So, it was.
Great time to slide into the market. It was a great time.
Before now, because the interest rates are, we're not going to tell you exactly when we purchased, but the interest rates right now are through the roof. And it wasn't that way when we decided to purchase our home. So. The interest rates. The interest rates were at a record low. And so, of course, you guys probably know the market was crazy. A lot of people were trying to get in at that time. And not only that, we had spent a lot of time indoors, in close quarters.
Right.
And a lot of people were like, we need to spread out. We need some space.
Right.
So we decided to take advantage of the greatest possibility. What's the other one, though?
Rent prices were going crazy. I mean, for us, it was time to move. That space was not. I mean, the pandemic made us see that it was time to move. The space was becoming too small for us. Family growing, and we were like, all right, so let's go look. So we went to a few spots, checked out some decent apartments, and the prices were insane.
And when he says decent apartments, now this is something you got to understand about us. I've lived in New York my whole life. Hubby is coming here from Nigeria. When he came from Nigeria, he was in Minnesota and Atlanta. So the living situation in those two places is very different, right? In New York, you got to have the window AC. You got to pay for that thing, right? You got to drive around the block a few times, find a parking spot. Like we don't get that included in the rent. So the apartment that I had when we got married, yes, it was great. It did what we needed to do for the years that we were there. But it's not the lifestyle that husband was used to. Right? He wasn't used to walking around the corner to go to the laundromat. Like we don't do that.
Right. So yeah, it was time to move.
Right.
And those apartments that we saw had those amenities in them, and it was a great fit. But then the prices were
outrageous,
insane. So, we got home. We talked over it, and we came to a conclusion like, if we have a mortgage, we are even paying less than what the rent is cost out here. So, we just came to a conclusion. Best option is to buy.
Yeah.
So we had to hit the market.
And we were looking at market rate of $3,000 a month for rent. And we were like, and for some of the places that we went to see, not even worth it. So small, and we have children.
Right.
So small.
Going for 3,500, 4,000.
Right.
For a 2 bedroom.
And then on top of that, you had to rent. You would have had to rent more. You would have had to rent more storage space because the apartments were just not big enough.
Right.
Even the appliances, the appliances were small. I'm like, who over here is making some jollof rice and fufu on this stove?
I've never seen a stove that small my whole life.
Oh my goodness, it was real.
My whole life.
It was real.
Right.
So we decided, we're like, listen, and we looked at our finances, of course, and we were like, if we can afford $3,000 a month for rent, then we might as well pay $3,000 into a mortgage, into something that will be ours and that we can pass down to our children. Mm-hmm. I wasn't ready.
It was a struggle for me.
I wasn't ready.
Trying to convince her, it was a struggle. It was a struggle. My
mentality very different, right? I come from a different background. Your family has owned homes, even though it's in Nigeria. Your family has owned homes before. My family owns home. My grandmother has a home. My aunts, right? But my mom doesn't, my grandmother doesn't. So it's just a different, like on your closing disclosure, it breaks it down for you. And the closing disclosure lets you know all of the money that has to be paid or that was paid, who it came from, where it went, and then what you are responsible for at closing. It just breaks down all of the numbers. So on our closing disclosure, the payment for just principal and interest. Now, we also have an additional payment because we only put down 3%. But the principal and interest payment by itself was about $50 more than the rent we were paying for our one-bedroom apartment.
Right.
So if we didn't have that extra fee to pay because of how much money we put down, we would have been paying less. $50 more to have a whole house, like a town. Well, we have a townhome. Yeah. We would have been paying $50 more to have a townhome than the rent we were paying. So just a bit of encouragement.
Yeah, it's not impossible. If you put your heart to it, we do know New York, the prices are crazy. Buying a house in New York, the prices are crazy. It's not compared to what, because same money, if we take the same money down south, we would own a mansion, right? But, be encouraged is something that you can achieve. If you can pay New York rent, trust me, you can pay New York mortgage.
Right. So with that being said, we're going to segue into the next question. We're going to be brief, right? One thing we did was fix our credit. The other thing we did was save. During these hard times, it was great because we had a lot going for ourselves. I had just signed a new contract to be a teacher, so I was moving from a teaching assistant to a teacher, and that means I doubled my salary. And hubby, because of the time we're living in, he had a new job opportunity that was remote that he could work in conjunction with his physical job. So we had a lot more income coming in at that point in time. So what we did was credit cards. I started with a secured credit card, and this was like 6 months prior to us trying to purchase, because we already knew the rent was crazy. By the time our next lease is up, we want to be in a position to buy. So I got a secured credit card, and with a secured credit card, you come with whatever you want your limit to be. So I started with $300, paid it off as I used it, and then they transferred over into a regular bank card. So that's what I did. Hubby did this. Well, he didn't have a secure credit card, but he got credit cards. We did what we had to do, and we built our credit. And it didn't take long. Maybe 6 months?
Yeah, about that.
About 6 months, and then our credit scores were well into the 700s. And then saving. Again, we had the extra income on my part, extra income on hubby's part. We weren't going anywhere because everybody was locked down anyway.
Right.
So the most we did was Uber Eats a lot.
Right.
But other than that, we made all this extra money we were able to save. Next question. So there are a lot of loan products out there.
That's
a lot. And I'm a teacher, and he's a healthcare worker. So there are a lot of opportunities for us as well. But the reason, a few of the biggest reasons why we went with SONYMA. The first one is down payment assistance. At the time, I don't know if you knew, but at the time, I wasn't sure of how that worked. So I thought the down payment assistance comes in up front, like they give you the down payment. No, miss. You pay your, you did it?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So you pay your down payment. The down payment assistance comes in, it comes in clutch too, with the closing costs, right? So it greatly impacts how much money you have to bring to the closing table, which is amazing. So down payment assistance was one. The second thing is 3% down. You're only required to put down 3%. Now, SONYMA is not the only loan product where you can put down 3%. You can use any other FHA loan, or maybe even some conventional loans. Don't quote me on it though. But 3% down. However, for SONYMA, of that 3%, only 1% has to be your cash money, the buyer's cash money.
Right.
So the rest of that, the other 2%, you can essentially get as gifts if you need to. And we did get gifts. It wasn't up to 3% to 2%, but we did get gifts that helped out, right? So no reserves. So when I was doing research, a lot of the banks, conventional loans, they look for reserves. And what reserves are is it's money that you have sitting in the bank after closing, right? So let's say your mortgage is $2,000 a month. They want to see that you have 3 months, that after closing, you will have at least 3 to 6 months of your mortgage payment in the bank, right after you close. And it's not to say that we bought a house and didn't have any savings, because nobody out here is doing all of that, because we're not crazy. But we liked the option of not being forced to have the reserves, right? Like that wasn't the reason why we couldn't close or we wouldn't get the loan. And then they have several product options. So we will include the link for SONYMA in the description box, so make sure you check that out. But they have so many different loan products that you can use. They have a revitalization loan where you can buy in a specific area and you can use the loan to fix up the house. Excuse me, and things like that. The other thing with SONYMA that I didn't write down that we learned is that you can stack grants. And so what I mean by that is we can get the down payment assistance from SONYMA. We could have. We also contacted CHI, Community Housing Innovations in White Plains. Because of what's been going on, they didn't have any. They had money, but we didn't qualify because we was making so much money. Yeah. So, but if it didn't go according to how much money we made, or if we made under the guidelines, we would have been able to use the down payment assistance from SONYMA, the grant from CHI, and the part of the grant from CHI is to be used to fix up the house. So whether that's new appliances, floors, HVAC, whatever. We could have used CHI, and was there another one that we were looking into? I don't remember, but we could have essentially.
We had a couple we're looking at.
We could have essentially stacked those two grants and basically closed on our home with zero money from us and extra money in order to fix up the house. So that's something to think about as well. You can use SONYMA in conjunction with another grant product, right? Which would have been clutch, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So when you go in to apply for a loan, you start with your pre-approval. You put in all your information as it stands, and then you get a pre-approval. Hey, we will pre-approve you for $400,000, which seems great, right? However, that pre-approval, I think, in our experience, had nothing to do with what we were finally approved for. So our suggestion is do not fully depend on your pre-approval, and if you can go through closing before you even get to the point of looking for a home, not closing, underwriting. If you can go through underwriting before you get out there and look for a home, we strongly suggest it.
Yes.
Because at least with underwriting, they've run a fine-tooth comb through all of your finances, all of the money you bring in.
You just know what range you're falling.
Right. And so if they tell you you're approved for $350,000, you can go out there and find a house anywhere from $350,000. You know you can't go over that. And we say that because in our experience, I was at a new job, but when I signed the contract, you know, as a teacher, you sign a contract, that's your salary, it is what it is, right? There's a pay scale, right? But your salary only goes up, okay? The issue we ran into with underwriting, which we weren't aware was going to be an issue, was hubby's income. And what happened was one of his jobs was through a temp agency, even though you had that job for like 2 years.
Right.
One of the jobs was through a temp agency, and so the bank didn't use that income at all because they said they view like a temp agency as they can let you go at any time, which is true, right? So didn't use that income at all. Then we were like, okay, well, we're still good because you have to submit pay stubs. However, they also reach out to your employer, and they don't base your income solely on your pay stub. They also base, or more so, they base your income on your contract. What contract did you sign?
For that particular job?
Right.
Yeah. So what kind of like threw me off with the other job was it was a part-time job, even though I've been there long enough. But I never worked part-time hours. So I was making well enough like a full-time worker at that job. And then at the other one with the temp agency, it was a full-time job. The pay is great, like real great. But still they wouldn't consider it. So they had to go off the contract with my direct job, with a part-time job. To, even though I don't make part-time income, they still base it off part-time. So that's one thing you have to consider.
Yes.
And for each of those jobs, you have to be in for a minimum of 2 years. Anything less than 2 years will not be considered. Right. So it was a plus for me because I've been on those jobs for over 2 years. So, but still they didn't consider the other one.
Right.
So, but either way.
And I was so frustrated, and I was trying to battle back and forth with the loan officer. I'm like, listen, but the money he brings in though. Right. And they're like, okay, we get that, but his contract is for part-time. This is the amount of money that he's guaranteed, right? They want to know how much money are you guaranteed to bring in,
right.
If nothing else, if all else fails, right? And so in the moment, that was a huge dagger for us, right? Because your income is directly impacts your DTI, which is your debt to income ratio. And that needs to be a certain percentage in order for you to
qualify for a certain amount.
Right. So that hurt, right? Because we had a huge chunk of our income just taken off of the table because they wouldn't count it. However, it was also a blessing because we were still able to get approved for our home. And we knew that on the lowest that our finances could go, we could still pay our mortgage and live life and be okay. So everything extra that we made was truly extra. And that was clutch. That was good too. So that's another thing to think about, right? When you go into it, you don't want to be, there's this saying, you don't want to be house rich and cash poor, right? So you don't want to have this big, huge, lavish house, that you can't pay for, or that like what happened to us, the AC doesn't work one day when it's hot, and you need to replace it, but then you find out you need to replace the furnace too, and that's thousands of dollars, right? You don't want to be in a spot like that and not able to
pull through it.
Right. So a few other things. Turnaround time. So it's very important to know the turnaround time, or at that particular time that you are trying to apply for your loan, it's important to know the turnaround time for the underwriter, right? Because that delayed our process a lot. The turnaround time at the time when we did it around the holidays. Oh my goodness. So the turnaround time was 4 days. So think about the turnaround time of 4 days plus holidays in the middle of there, right?
Oh my goodness.
So
holidays kept setting us back.
And weekends, right? Because
once you come off one holiday and you try, all right, so turnaround time, we're going to be good. Boom. You see another holiday coming again. I mean, you're like,
or vacations, right? So people will take, I'm going to take a vacation day before the holiday starts, or after, the holiday. So all of those components, it really, really
set us back.
It really did.
Based off timing, though.
Right.
Not anything else. Just
timing. The timing.
Because we really wanted to be out of that apartment at a specific time.
Right.
But all that holiday thing kind of like set us back with that.
Right. And so in that, right, in knowing the turnaround time, it's very important for you to be I can't think of the word, pregnancy brain, forgive me. But it's very important for you to be on top of your documents. So they're always going to be, first of all, always check your email, right? Because they're not going to always call you. At least that's how it went for us. They didn't always call when they needed something. They would send an email. So always check your email and be on top of your documents. So at the end of the process, the loan processor and the loan officer, they thanked us because they were like, you guys were so easy to work with. And part of that was because they asked for a document. We sent it either that same day or that next morning. We were trying to be on top of it. Because, again, the longer you take to get the documents back to the bank, then the turnaround time, because it has to go to underwriting, they'll come back and ask you to satisfy another condition. There's always a condition on some. Until they tell you that your loan is approved, there's always a condition to satisfy. Whether that's a bank statement or a credit card statement, like whatever it is. So the suggestion is just to be on top of your documents. And if you can collect those things before you even start applying, just have updated documents for everything you could think of. All right. I think that's it for that one. SONYMA is a federally backed loan, so it's a government loan. So they may require you to pay off and close some credit, right? Pay off and close. So for me, and I was so upset about it, because one, it impacts your credit score, right? And then two, the credit cards they were asking me to close were the credit cards that I started with to build my credit. So they had the longevity, right? And we know that longevity impacts your credit score as well. So I was frustrated, and I made sure they knew, not that I was frustrated, but they knew my credit score is going to go down. That's what SONYMA requires. So, okay. So there were a few credit cards. Did you have to close anything?
Yeah, I had to close.
Oh, you did.
You
had one account.
One account. The longest I had.
Yes.
And that was like my best. Like that account. That account reports like the best of the best.
Right. So that's one thing we didn't know, that we would have to pay off. Everything was paid off already because we knew that your debt to income is based on the numbers that are shown on your credit report. So if on your credit report it says that you owe $25 to Capital One, they're going to calculate that $25 into your debt to income ratio. So all of our credit cards were paid off. They were all at zero, and we made sure it was updated on our credit report before we even started the process. However, SONYMA wanted them to also be closed And so in closing the credit card, we had to make sure we got those statements from the creditors saying this account was closed, and that was part of the paperwork we had to send in. The other thing that I didn't know that also impacts closing, with the SONYMA loan, I don't know about other loan products, but with the SONYMA loan, you go through underwriting twice. Yes, you heard me. You go through underwriting twice. Right. So we went through underwriting once with the bank that we use that offers the SONYMA product. Once the underwriter at the bank said, okay, all conditions have been satisfied, this loan can now move on to SONYMA closing. The good thing about it is that SONYMA's underwriting was only 2 days. The turnaround time was only 2 days. However, SONYMA came back with like 7 conditions that we had to satisfy. And I was so frustrated because some of them are conditions that we already satisfied or whatever. And so sometimes it's just the transfer of paper whenever they're scanning documents. Maybe something didn't get scanned. Maybe something was stuck together or whatever. But we had to
resend them.
Right. So we had to satisfy those conditions again, and some of them for the first time, for SONYMA specifically. And then once they approved it, it goes back to our bank's underwriter, and then we can be cleared to close. So SONYMA, 2 underwriters, all right? Bank and then SONYMA. Whew. All right. So final thoughts. So we just wanted to tell you guys, in case you are first-time homeowners and you are looking to purchase a home, even with a SONYMA loan, it is a federal loan. It does give down payment assistance. They give 3%. I don't think I said that earlier. They give 3% down payment assistance, which means that they will pay to your closing costs 3% of the asking price of the home. Well, not the asking price, whatever price you've agreed to on your contract sale. So whatever that price is, SONYMA will give you 3% of that for closing. So, right? So down payment, remember we said 3% down payment, only 1% has to be from the buyers. So we did get gifts. We received gifts from family members. So our down payment was, we put down a little over $4,000. That's how much cash money we had to give up front. And then the rest came from gifts. If you are getting gifts, the bank wants to see the money transferred from one account to the other. And letters. So they give you a form for the person who is providing the gift to fill out, and they want that person's bank statements and your bank statements, of course, to verify the funds went from one account to the other. And that is a gift, because if it's not a gift and it's a loan, they want to calculate that into your debt to income, so get your life. So we paid a little over $4,000 for down payment. Now, things we pay before closing, right? So there are fees that you have before closing. The inspection, homeowner's insurance, once you get close to closing, or like right before you close, you'll do the homeowner's insurance. The application fee.
Bank fees.
In the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The appraisal, because you have to get the house appraised. This was another good thing for us, guys. So we ended up having, in order to get the house, because we kept getting beat out. You guys know, during this wonderful time we're living in at the moment, a lot of people are getting beat out, right? Their offers are getting beat out, and we were part of that because we were only putting down 3%. You had people coming out here putting down a whole lot of percents, and we weren't.
In cash.
Right.
Like cash down.
Right. And we had a seller tell us that, because we wrote buyer's letters. I think that's what you call it. I'm not sure. But I always wrote a letter to kind of tell them who we are, what we're about, how this house will kind of help our family. And so one seller was nice enough. But for the appraisal, so for the home that we purchased, it was listed at one price. We had to offer $20,000 over that to beat out the other offer, right? Because there was an offer on the home already. We didn't have more money to put down, but we were pre-approved for a higher amount. So we were able to say, well, on the back end, this is what we can offer. So that's how we ended up getting the house. and then the appraisal came in more than what we offered. Right. So we made money
at the end of the day. Right. At the end of the day, it balanced out. I wouldn't say it balanced out.
No, we made money. I would
say, we made money. We made good amount of money after the appraisal.
Right. So, and that's we didn't even renovate. Like, there's some things that we need to do in the house that we not need to do, that we would like to do to kind of update. And so that's before any of those things, right? So we made money at the top of the sale. And then credit report. You got to pay for your credit report. You know, the bank, they want to see your numbers and stuff. Right. So all of those things you pay before closing. So that was about $1,800 for us. And then you get your closing disclosure. After, you go through the whole thing, they're like, oh, you're clear to close. They send you your final closing disclosure.
Music to my ears.
Right. But it's you get a little anxious, right? Because it's like, how much money do I have to bring to closing, right? Even though you've prepared and all that, how much money? Now, not only did we have the SONYMA down payment assistance, so they paid 3% of the home purchase price, right? Not what it was listed at, because remember, that was lower. The price that we agreed to on our contract of sale. So they paid 3% of that. Then we were able to get a seller's concession. We got a seller's concession for about $4,000 because there were like some cracked tiles, like little things like that.
We had to do.
Right. So we asked for a seller's concession and they gave it to us. So now that's about $15,000, maybe over that, right? That's already at the closing table before we got there. So we only had to come to the closing table with a little over $3,000. And so that's how, with the $4,000, the $3,000, these are roundabout numbers, the $1,800, all of those things considered.
But trust me,
that's how we get to that roundabout $9,000 figure. And so we just wanted to encourage you guys, right? $9,000 for some of us. I know when I was a single mom, my tax returns, right? If I had saved my tax returns for 2 years, I could have bought a house. If it was still like this process, right? So it's just something to think about. I think a lot of people, myself included, because coming into this process, I didn't think we had the means to be able to purchase a home. But with hubby's encouragement, I was like, all right, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it. And I did the research, and it turned out to be better than anything we could have imagined. Because even though all of the assistance wasn't there, some of the grants that we were looking into didn't have funding because of what's been going on. But we were still able to find a house, close on the home, all of that. Let's round it, $10,000. Right? We were able to do that with $10,000. So, and not all of that was our money, because we got gifts from family as well. So, just an encouragement. If you can, find you a down payment assistance loan and go ahead and get your house. Now, this is the SONYMA is great, right? This is our first home. It is not our forever home. So we will be doing this again.
Soon.
Because we do need to upgrade. But we did want to, again, take advantage of what was going on. And still, so we live in an HOA, so we do have an HOA fee. And we do have mortgage insurance that we're paying, right, because we put down less than 20%. SONYMA, I believe, you have to pay mortgage insurance no matter what. So what you could do with SONYMA is, once the equity in your home reaches that 20%, you can refinance into a conventional loan, and then you can get that mortgage interest payments. You can get that taken off. But with those 2 extra payments, remember, HOA and the mortgage insurance payment, right? With both of those payments, our monthly mortgage, our monthly housing costs is at or below the market rate for a 2-bedroom apartment, not even 3.
Yeah.
A 2-bedroom apartment at its market rate of $4,000. No, $3,000 to $3,500. So We say all that to say it is possible. And we
Stay
hope,
encouraged.
right? Stay encouraged. Now you ain't got time though. You don't have no time because we went to we were talking to somebody the other day, and he was like, "Listen, I went to buy an income property, and the interest rate was like 4% or something like that. I went on vacation and I came back a month or two later, and they were like, the interest rate is over 6%. Take it or leave it. You can walk out the door if you don't want it." Right? So times are definitely changing. But it doesn't mean that you can't work with it. Now, SONYMA's interest rate was 3% when we purchased our home, 3%. And that was a little bit over what was happening in the world around us because theirs were like in the twos. My grandmother in North Carolina refinanced her home, and her interest rate was in the twos. But they have a fixed interest rate, at least for the loan product that we got, which was 3%. But that's still much lower than what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. So if it is the same thing, we suggest that you check it out because it's an option and it's a viable option. It's a really good option, especially if you're trying to move in New York. SONYMA is the way to go.
Yes.
Anything else, babe?
Just stay encouraged. There's this level of peace you feel when you own something. And coming from my background, I know what it feels like to own something you call your own, with the interest that goes on top of it, with the also having a family, something you can call, I can pass this down to my kids. It's a blessing that I'm very, very grateful for. That we're able to step into. I just want to encourage someone out there. Just stay encouraged. It's achievable in New York. Mm-hmm. If you like I said earlier, if you can afford a rented apartment in New York, you can own a property.
You might have some things to work on, right?
Yeah,
like
you might
your
have
credit,
a few things to work on.
Savings.
Savings. Just short-term discipline.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't say short-term because you have to continue to discipline yourself.
Right.
But just discipline yourself financially. You're right there.
You'll be good. And I do want to mention this too, because sometimes, especially with this whole internet life that we live, it's easy to get caught up in the glitz and glamour, right? It's easy to see all of the things I want. This is what I want in my home, and it's non-negotiable. However, there are a lot of things that you may have to sacrifice, right? Or that may be trade-offs. Not necessarily a sacrifice, but trade-offs.
Yeah, trade-off.
Like we mentioned already, there are some things that we would like to update in the home. We have carpet. Some of the carpet is pink in the bedrooms. Like, why we got pink carpet? Like, what we doing? Right? However, this is my house. So I can tear up those carpets if I want to. I may not be able to do it right now.
Yeah, but in time you can get it done.
Right. So don't be afraid to maybe look at something that you would not have. Don't be afraid to settle on a few things. We had to move away from where we lived when we were renting. And that means moving away from the kids' schools. That means moving me further out from my job and from my family as well, because my family's on that side of town. So those are some trade-offs. However, we live in a beautiful community. We're steps away from a pool that we take our kids to. We have parks in the community, tennis courts, community events, and so much more space. The boys have a room that they share. They have, sorry, honey, you didn't get a man cave.
I had to give up the basement so they can have enough space to play.
But they have a couch down there. They have all their toys, all their gaming systems. Like, we have space to breathe. And so while we did have to move out a little further than we may have wanted to, we're able to set our family up in a way that is exponentially greater than what we had. And then we also have the opportunity to be landlords if we wanted to, because our HOA allows us to rent out the home. Right. So when we're able to find our forever home, or our second time home or whatever, we could rent this one out, and we could make money off of it. So that's also an option, right? Rent it, and then when the time comes, let our children have it. So there's so many options. So don't be afraid to get out there. Don't be afraid to maybe take something that needs a little TLC, just a little something. And don't be afraid to kind of trade off some things, even if that means your commute to work is extra 5 minutes, or if you got to pay a toll so you can't get the Starbucks coffee every morning. You can make Starbucks coffee at home. I'm telling you, you can do it. So yeah, so that's it, family. This video is long. But we wanted to give you that information. We wanted you to celebrate with us, not only the baby, which baby shower video will be coming up soon, but we wanted you to celebrate baby and home, right? We've done some big things in the last year, and we've only been married for 5 years, five and a half years at this point. So we just wanted to encourage you guys where we could and bring you along the journey. And if you have any questions, if there's anything that we didn't mention in this video that you would like to know, you can definitely put it down in the comments below, and we will be sure to answer you.
And hopefully this video gets to be a blessing to someone.
Definitely.
Stay encouraged. Stay hopeful. Thank you.
You got this. You got this. Peace, family.
Peace.